Did you know that before every major battle, Marcus Aurelius, yes, the Roman emperor, would write himself secret reminders to prepare for pain, betrayal, and loss? These weren't just strategies for war, but for surviving the chaos of his own mind. Imagine stepping into the ring, not against another fighter, but against your own fears and doubts. Have you ever wondered what real mental toughness looks like behind the scenes? Have you ever faced a moment so crushing, you thought you'd never recover? What if there were ancient rules, commandments, used by history's toughest minds and by modern boxers to heal and rebuild stronger than before? Today, I'll reveal the secret Stoic commandments boxers follow to heal a broken mind. We'll tap into the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, uncovering how their ancient code shapes the unbreakable mentality of world-class fighters today. If you've ever struggled to recover from a mental blow, you're about to discover a blueprint for rising again. And here's my promise. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand these commandments, you'll have the tools to transform your pain into power. There's a peculiar silence that only fighters know. It's not the roar of the crowd, nor the thud of leather against flesh. It's what happens in the locker room when you're alone with the echo of your own doubts. This is the place where the mind begins to fracture, where defeat feels like destiny. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and reluctant warrior, wrote his private meditations during nights darker than most of us can imagine. Did you know that he would sometimes scribble his thoughts hastily, almost desperately, moments before going into council with generals who doubted him and enemies who wanted him dead? He called these notes his armor for the mind. He believed, as he scribbled, that the true battle was always internal. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Imagine Marcus, surrounded by threats, using nothing but his words to keep himself together. Boxers, too, know this space. The ring inside the mind. It's here that brokenness is born, but also where healing begins. After a crushing defeat, the hardest part isn't the pain in your body. It's the echo of failure, looping endlessly, challenging your identity. Are you just a loser now? Are you broken forever? This is where the first commandment emerges. Stand firm in the arena of your own mind. The world can strip you of titles, applause, and even hope. But if you can reclaim your thoughts, if you can refuse to be defined by what's happened to you, then you plant the first seed of healing. And I ask myself, honestly, do I ever let my setbacks write my story for me? Or am I brave enough, even in silence, to pick up the pen and write a new line? The pain hits first, a sharp, unfiltered jolt that rattles even the most seasoned fighter. For a boxer, it's the blow you didn't see coming. For the rest of us, it's the heartbreak, the failure, the phone call at midnight that shatters what we thought was stable. The instinct is to recoil, to hide, to pretend we're untouched. But the first real commandment is clear. Face your pain without flinching. Epictetus, whose own life began in chains, believed that suffering is not a sign of weakness, but a crucible, a place where character is forged. Imagine a philosopher, born a slave, left physically disabled by a cruel master, choosing to see pain not as a curse, but as a classroom. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, he insisted. What if the pain isn't your enemy? What if it's your trainer? Boxers live this lesson every day. They don't just study technique. They spend hours in the gym getting hit, learning how to endure, how to stay standing when their legs want to buckle. In the ring, the true test isn't if you can avoid pain, but how you respond to it. The greats don't just take the blow, they use it, adapt, evolve. They learn not to flinch. Here's a curiosity that might surprise you. Before every major fight, Muhammad Ali would imagine, in painful detail, the worst things that could happen in the ring. Being knocked down, humiliated, beaten. He'd sit with the fear, feel it fully until it lost its power over him. When the moment came, nothing could truly surprise him. His mind had already taken every hit. Do I have the courage to turn toward my pain, to see what it's really teaching me? Or am I still running from the blows I'd rather not face? This is the birthplace of resilience, the decision to face the pain, to let it shape you, but never define you. The pain hits first, a sharp, unfiltered jolt that rattles even the most seasoned fighter. For a boxer, it's the blow you didn't see coming. For the rest of us, it's the heartbreak, the failure, the phone call at midnight that shatters what we thought was stable. The instinct is to recoil, to hide, to pretend we're untouched. But the first real commandment is clear. Face your pain without flinching. Epictetus, whose own life began in chains, believed that suffering is not a sign of weakness, but a crucible, a place where character is forged. Imagine a philosopher, born a slave, left physically disabled by a cruel master, choosing to see pain not as a curse, but as a classroom. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, he insisted. What if the pain isn't your enemy? What if it's your trainer? Boxers live this lesson every day. They don't just study technique, they spend hours in the gym getting hit, learning how to endure, how to stay standing when their legs want to buckle. In the ring, the true test isn't if you can avoid pain, but how you respond to it. The greats don't just take the blow, they use it, adapt, evolve. They learn not to flinch. Here's a curiosity that might surprise you. Before every major fight, Muhammad Ali would imagine, in painful detail, the worst things that could happen in the ring. Being knocked down, humiliated, beaten. He'd sit with the fear, feel it fully, until it lost its power over him. When the moment came, nothing could truly surprise him. His mind had already taken every hit. Do I have the courage to turn toward my pain? To see what it's really teaching me? Or am I still running from the blows I'd rather not face? This is the birthplace of resilience. The decision to face the pain, to let it shape you, but never define you. Pain comes uninvited, but chaos follows close behind. After a defeat, inside or outside the ring, the world seems to tilt. Doubt multiplies, anxiety swells. It's tempting to believe that if we could just control more, people, outcomes, circumstances, we could avoid feeling broken in the first place. But this is where the Stoic path splits from the frantic path of fear. Control what you can. Seneca, whose life unfolded in the dangerous halls of Roman politics, understood that most suffering is imaginary, a storm we create in our own minds. We suffer more in imagination than in reality, he warned. Picture a boxer pacing before a match, the roar of the crowd, the smell of sweat, the judge's stare. So much feels out of reach. But in that moment, a seasoned fighter returns to what he can control, the rhythm of his breath, the memory of every drill, the mindset he chooses as he steps into the lights. Stoics and boxers alike know that trying to control everything is not strength. It's exhaustion. The real power is selective focus. The ancient philosophers called this the dichotomy of control, a split between what belongs to us and what does not. In boxing, as in life, you can't control the outcome, but you can control your preparation, your attitude, and the courage with which you meet each round. Here's a practical curiosity. Some Olympic boxing teams train their athletes to perform a simple ritual before every match. They touch their gloves to their heart and take 3 deep breaths, reminding themselves, my effort is mine, the rest is up to fate. This isn't superstition, it's a reset, a return to the only arena that really matters. What would change in my life if I stopped wasting energy on what I can't change and instead invested everything into what I can? Could that be the first real taste of freedom? This is the Stoic's second commandment. Master your circle of control and let the rest pass by like weather. A boxer steps into the ring, but the real fight is rarely against flesh and bone. It's waged in whispers, quiet, corrosive thoughts that question your worth, your talent, your right to rise again. This is the battle every champion knows. Your greatest opponent is always within. Seneca endured public disgrace, exile, and the threat of death, yet never let these outer storms destroy his core, his secret, cultivating an inner resilience, shaping his perception until even tragedy could become fuel. In the locker rooms of the world, fighters wage this war silently, confronting doubt, shame, and the urge to give up. They learn to talk back to their minds, rewriting the story that pain wants to tell. In Stoicism, this is the discipline of perception, the art of framing reality. A boxer who gets knocked down can see it as the end or as a lesson. The story we tell ourselves is more powerful than any headline, any commentator's voice. A surprising curiosity for you. Before some of his biggest fights, Mike Tyson would recite Stoic mantras to himself in the dressing room. Words like discipline equals freedom, echoing Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, calmed his mind more than any coach's pep talk. It's a reminder. The power isn't just in the punch, but in the story you tell yourself before you throw it. Do I ever let my thoughts sabotage my comeback? What if I change the narrative? What if every defeat was simply the start of my next chapter? The discipline of perception isn't about pretending pain away. It's about refusing to let pain define who you are. Every time you rewrite the story in your head, you step closer to healing and to true strength. Defeat has a taste, bitter, metallic, unforgettable. It can linger long after the bruises fade, resurfacing every time you dare to try again. But there's a commandment the Stoics and the BOXERS both know: embrace the fall, then rise, not in spite of your pain, but because of it. Marcus Aurelius faced a world that was constantly breaking: wars at the borders, betrayal in the Senate, plagues and famine. He wrote, again and again, "The obstacle is the way. The very thing that breaks you contains the raw material for your evolution." Boxers who walk out of the ring after a loss, head down, pride shattered, face a choice: replay their failure until it becomes a prison, or study every moment, extract every lesson, and come back with a new strategy, a stronger mind. Here's something you might not know. The legendary heavyweight Joe Louis, after his only defeat in a decade, watched film of his loss over and over, dissecting every mistake until he understood not just what happened, but why. His next fight, total redemption, he didn't just return to form, he came back transformed. So often we hide from our defeats. We avoid thinking about them, hoping time will erase their sting. But the Stoics teach the opposite. Stare down your losses. Ask them what they're here to teach. The pain is real, but it isn't the end. It's the forge. Have I ever taken my worst failure and used it as the foundation for my biggest comeback? Or have I let it sit in the shadows, quietly dictating my future? This is the quiet heroism of healing. The willingness to confront the fall, extract its lessons, and build something stronger from the ashes. Every comeback begins with an honest reckoning, and the courage to rise, not as you were, but as you could be. Every fight ends. The bell rings, the crowd disperses, and the adrenaline fades into a hollow quiet. In that silence, the mind often races to attach meaning. Am I now a champion or a disappointment? Did that single round, that one mistake, rewrite who I am? The Stoic answer is a lesson both brutal and liberating. Practice detachment. Epictetus, who had every reason to be consumed by bitterness, taught his students to draw a line, a sacred boundary, between what happens to us and who we truly are. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. He would repeat, like a mantra. In the world of boxing, this line is everything. A fighter who confuses a bad round with being a bad person begins to lose battles in the mind long before the next bell. True detachment isn't cold or indifferent. It's clarity. It means you can give everything to a fight and walk away with dignity, win or lose. It's knowing that your value doesn't hang on a scoreboard or the fickle approval of others. In practice, boxers who master this commandment recover faster from defeat and don't let victories swell their ego. They learn to live in the middle, stable and grounded, no matter what the outcome. Here's a curiosity that often gets overlooked. Many world-class fighters are taught, from their earliest training, to leave the fight in the ring. Coaches remind them, don't carry the win or loss into the rest of your life. Don't poison your relationships, your sense of self, or your future with one fleeting moment. This is Stoic wisdom, modernized. Can I look at my own life and see where I've let a single failure or even a single success define my worth? What would it feel like to step back, to draw that line, and to reclaim who I really am? Detachment doesn't mean feeling less. It means being free. Free to heal, to learn, and to move forward, no matter how many rounds you fought or lost. Some of the most powerful moments in a fighter's life happen far from the spotlight, alone in a dim locker room, or in the quiet of early morning before the world awakens. Champions know that resilience isn't an accident. It's built, moment by moment, through rituals that restore balance and keep chaos at bay. Boxers have their own secret routines. You might see it in the slow, controlled way they wrap their hands, in the repeated deep breaths before stepping into the ring, or in the silent moments with their eyes closed, visualizing every movement before the bell. These aren't just habits. They're sacred rituals, grounding the mind when nerves threaten to take over. Marcus Aurelius, facing threats from all sides, made his own practice. Every morning, he would remind himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This daily meditation, memento mori, remember you must die, wasn't meant to darken his mood, but to sharpen his focus. When you're not afraid of what comes next, you fight with freedom. Here's a curiosity most people don't know. Seneca, surrounded by enemies in the dangerous court of Nero, would write letters about adversity while chaos brewed outside his door. He didn't wait for peace and quiet. He made time every day to sit with his thoughts, turning hardship into clarity. These daily letters became his anchor. What's my own ritual of resilience? When the world feels out of control, do I have something to return to? A practice, a reminder, a space where I can center myself, even for just a few breaths? Resilience is rarely dramatic. It's a quiet, repetitive act. A boxer's gloves against his chest, a philosopher's pen against the page, a single breath to bring you back to now. Over time, these rituals become shields. They don't make you invincible, but they keep you standing when others fall. There's a hidden difference between those who heal and those who remain broken. Purpose. Pain, by itself, crushes, but pain with meaning transforms. Both Stoic philosophers and legendary fighters know that suffering without a why becomes unbearable. But with a why, even the worst defeats can become fuel for a new kind of fire. Seneca wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." In the ring, boxers who lose their sense of purpose often fade quickly, burning out under the weight of meaningless punishment. But those who find meaning, even in loss, can keep coming back. Round after round, heartbreak after heartbreak, champions build their comeback not on denial, but on clarity. They ask themselves over and over, why am I doing this? Why do I keep fighting? For some, it's a promise to a family. For others, it's about pride, legacy, or the pursuit of mastery. Whatever it is, that purpose becomes an anchor when the storm hits. Here's a lesser-known story. Bernard Hopkins, who spent his early life in prison before becoming a world champion, found his why in proving everyone wrong. Every morning, he would recite to himself the reasons he refused to quit, until that purpose became armor, shielding his mind from doubt and fear. He didn't just fight for titles. He fought for a story that mattered. What about me? What's my deepest why? If I had to name it, right now, could I? If not, am I willing to go looking for it? Pain is inevitable, but meaning is a choice. When you turn suffering into purpose, scars become symbols of survival, and the journey to healing finally begins. The movies make comebacks look like magic. A single knockout, a sudden turnaround. The world cheering as the hero stands tall. But real healing doesn't work that way. The true comeback is quiet, stubborn, and achingly slow. It's not about the spotlight. It's about the choices you make in the shadows, long after everyone else has stopped watching. Epictetus told his students to expect hardship, not just once, but again and again. He taught that every new struggle is a teacher, shaping the mind for what comes next. Fighters live this truth every day. After a loss, the mind aches to escape, to retreat into blame or bitterness. But healing starts with the small things. Showing up to the gym the next morning, reviewing the footage of your defeat, tying your shoes even when your heart isn't in it. There's an almost sacred monotony to it. A boxer skipping rope in an empty gym, a philosopher rewriting his principles for the 1,000th time. The broken mind heals not because pain disappears, but because little by little you decide to keep moving. You choose in silence to make another attempt. Curiosity for you. Many boxers keep journals, not just of victories, but of mistakes, doubts, tiny improvements. Over time, these pages become a map of their comeback, proof that healing is a process of accumulation, not miracles. Do I have the patience to keep fighting, even when the victory feels invisible? Am I willing to make the hard choices quietly day after day to rebuild what was broken? It's not the single moment that matters. It's the 1,000 choices that no one else sees. That's how champions and philosophers rise again. So what are the secret commandments that boxers follow to heal a broken mind? They're not written in dusty rule books or whispered in locker rooms. They're lived, day by day, on the inside. These aren't just strategies for sport. They're blueprints for surviving any defeat. The mind breaks. The mind rebuilds. The journey isn't a straight line. It's a spiral, sometimes returning to old wounds, sometimes discovering new strengths. The ancient code of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus isn't about never falling. It's about learning, each time you do, to rise more wisely. Boxers live this. Stoics preach it. Both know you don't become unbreakable by avoiding pain, but by letting pain teach you how to heal. If you've ever stood at the edge of your own defeat, staring down the chaos, feeling the sting of a loss that seems permanent, Maybe it's time to step forward. The same way a fighter gets off the canvas. The same way a philosopher turns crisis into clarity. The ancient commandments aren't secrets anymore. They're waiting for anyone who's ready to fight for their own healing. Do I dare to heal, to step back into the arena, even after everything that's happened? Or do I let my story end here, broken and unfinished? I am not my failures. I am not the wounds that tried to define me. I am the commandment I choose to live by, today and every day after. If you felt these words, if you're standing at your own crossroads, type "I will heal" in the comments below. Let's build a community of comebacks. Hit subscribe, because your next round is coming, and you do not have to face it alone. The fight isn't over. It's just beginning.